Heading for the hills. Risk avoidance drives den site selection in African wild dogs. African wild dogs, like Lycaon pictus, are one of the world's most endangered animals, with only about 6,600 remaining in the wild. For most of the year, African wild dogs have a large range, not only to hunt for food, but in order to avoid larger carnivores such as lions. However, during the 3-month denning period, the dogs are confined to a much smaller range, and the pack, especially the pups, are vulnerable to being killed by lions. Rugged terrain, however, is associated with lower lion densities. Therefore, the authors of this study hypothesised that these comparatively safe habitats should be selected by wild dogs for the purpose of denning. Although other studies have been undertaken on the selection of den sites, they have not addressed rugged terrain as a possible factor. To carry out their study, the authors selected 4 different ecosystems across eastern and southern Africa, all of which had lion populations present. In order to determine the extent of variation in terrain ruggedness available to wild dogs, for every den site used in the study, 3 random contrast sites were also selected that the African wild dogs were known to traverse. The ruggedness of the terrain was then measured using a digital elevation model, and a filter was applied to compare the results between the den sites and the random contrast sites. So, what were the results? In these graphs, the red bars represent the den sites and the blue bars represent the random contrast sites. So the Low Leondo Game Reserve controlled area is on average the most rugged habitat. However, and most importantly to this study, even though the level of ruggedness varied in each of the areas studied, in all 4 cases, the wild dogs selected den sites in significantly more rugged terrain than in the random contrast sites. Therefore, the results strongly support the hypothesis that rugged terrain is selected by wild dogs for the purpose of reproduction and rearing of pups. That as lions do not generally favour rugged terrain, wild dogs were less likely to encounter them, making it a valid risk avoidance strategy. These findings have important implications for conservation planning. In the past, it was thought that introducing African wild dogs back into areas with high lion populations should be avoided, as their reproductive success would be limited. However, the evidence from this study suggests that as long as there is rugged terrain available to wild dogs, allowing for spatial avoidance of lions, the coexistence of both species is possible.